You are listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. And I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. All right, so full disclosure, I was going to focus this episode on Archangel Metatron. And as I was wrapping up the outline yesterday and gearing up to record, I was hit with the feeling that I was missing a huge chunk of what this episode should be. And what kept coming up is the name Sandalphon. So I started doing research, and actually in most circles, those archangels, Metatron and Sandalphon, are considered twin brothers. So it's natural that they should be together on this episode. So I spent another half day adding some deeper research about the second of those archangels into the mix. And then I got tired and I went to bed and I had a dream. And that, my dear listener, is where I have to begin this episode. So my dream, in it, I was in this giant room, and pretty quickly I realized I needed a chair because everybody else was in a folding chair, and they had big adult-sized folding chairs. And I saw a young man of about 25 years old, and he was looking for a chair as well. So I handed him one, and we unfolded our chairs, and we found that they were like child-sized chairs. And that's when I looked up and I noticed that this was a giant Christian church. But it wasn't a church in the sense of what maybe you think of when I say Christian church. It was this huge room, and on the wall where maybe you would expect a lectern, there was this huge cross, and it was very modern looking. It was created like a collage with all these modern materials used and bright colors, and it was quite stunning. And it had faces of all sorts of people in every hue, every culture in the world. And it was really quite beautiful. And there was nobody standing behind a lectern. It was actually a space that was created for fellowship. So I don't know if people would feel compelled to come up and speak to the grouping of people or what, but that was the sense I got, was this just unconditional love. Is kind of beautiful. So, but I was disturbed by the fact that we had these child-sized folding chairs. So I realized that there were two chairs that were adult-sized that I could borrow. So I switched them out and gave my new friend, this young man, one, and I took the other. And pretty soon I realized that he actually was there with his older mom and his much, much younger sibling, who was about a year and a half old, maybe a brother. And they needed help. So I jumped in and helped them. They were trying to, I don't know, some travel related thing. So I was helping them do that. And it's not important, because what's important is when I woke up and I kind of was marinating in the dream and kind of sentimental about what this church was and what this fellowship was that I felt there. And that's where I think the dream was supposed to lead me, and why I'm starting this episode this way is I have to acknowledge that there's probably a lot of you out there that are maybe triggered in a positive or negative way or some middle ground way by my pursuit of relationship with these angels. And that maybe for some, their religious doctrine says, we don't have access to angels. You're supposed to only worship directly to God or to Jesus. And there's this rule book. And I respect that. I respect that you are living your life with those rules. That's okay. But and then for others, on the other hand, my pursuit of angels and the magic behind the angels and all that they unlock for me personally and my pursuit of them may actually trigger an aversion because there is an association with angels in Christianity. But the angels, it's really important to note, they predate Christianity. They predate all the global religions. And so, and they are aligned with God. And whether you define God as the universal collective, the love, the seed inside of us that we all share, that is maybe, if you're a scientist, part of that Big Bang theory, that we're all created with the same essential, bits and pieces, stardust, if you will. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this pursuit I have and this ongoing unraveling of what the angels are, what they offer to us, and how we can find ways to connect with them, because they really love human beings and they would like us to make this a more joyful existence. And that's my purest form. But also, I think I've spoken negatively about religion per se. And I'm talking about the institution that maybe has these very rigid rules. And if you don't follow them exactly, they want to toss you out, or they want to maybe color us as being maybe sinners or other things like that. And this was that other overarching theme of my dream, which is the most beautiful facet of religion when you don't get into the weeds of the institutions themselves, that maybe they need to survive, so they need to make money. They have rent to pay on the spaces that they inhabit, and all of those things that are pragmatic, right? They're very 2D and 3D issues. But if you look at actually religion, the best of it is when they bring us together, when we're united in love, in compassion, in empathy, in a prayer, a common goal to lift up others without judgment. And that's the piece that I came away with from that dream that I needed to convey to you at the top of this episode. Is I think there's so much in the world today, especially now, that is meant to make us feel like there are all these walls between you and me, us and them, and tribalize our thinking. Well, that's fear-based. And in this life, in this pursuit, there's two paths. There's fear and there's love. And the whole message behind, not message, but the whole heartfelt urge behind Curious Cat is to transform fear into love. And you do that by simply asking questions. But the same is true with this whole tribalism. Just transmuting that fear into love of one another is what it's all about for me. And realizing that 99.999% of us all want the same things in life. And we want to help our neighbor, and we want to love one another, and we want to see each other through loving eyes, not fearful eyes. And we are optimists, and we are trying to make the world a brighter place, a better place. And in that vein, I really want to turn to the Archangel brothers, Metatron and Sandalphon. So there's no bad time to learn about angels, but what I found while researching these archangels is perfect for any moment when you desire a soul reboot, whether it's the first of the year or after a full moon or any day of the week that ends with the letter Y. So at his core, both Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon transform our negative thoughts into positive, constructive ones. They embody all the chakras and the spiritual energy, and they connect the celestial with the earthly. And we dwell in the earthly. And I think a lot of us have this pursuit, even in meditation, to touch the celestial, to remind us of who we actually are. Remember who we are as souls, right? Not just this meat suit. So Archangel Metatron burns with this intense, almost blinding white. And if you seek to reprogram any of that negative thought, those negative thought patterns, or just simply turn down the volume on your internal mean girl voice, you can ask Metatron for assistance and he'll intercede. He'll help you banish that negative thinking once and for all. And Sandalphon, in the same vein, has this power to, not a power, but this essence that says, I want you to see what your true soul journey is. Listen to that journey, and I want you to acknowledge it. And not only that, but lift you up in pursuit of that. And so they work together. They were thought to be twins on Earth, and they were both uplifted to be these archangels. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's get into both of them a little deeper. So from previous episodes of Curious Cat, you may recall that angel names typically end with the letters E-L, and that letter combination literally means of God. But we're talking today about Archangels Metatron and Sandalphon, whose names conspicuously do not include the EL at the end. In fact, that O-N at the tail of both of their names is indicative that they were once human beings. So according to ancient texts, Metatron and Sandalphon are the only angels that were once human. From Damien Eccles' book, High Magic, he says, quote, in pre-Christian forms of the Bible, Metatron is associated with the prophet Enoch. Okay, so that name may sound familiar because there's an entire non-canonical book of Enoch where he's said to have authored it, and I'll tell you more about that later on. But I read the entirety of the book of Enoch, and it covers some of these major biblical moments, such as Noah and the Great Flood, as well as some prophetic passages. But Sandalphon is associated with the prophet Elijah. They are considered twin brothers in spirit and are depicted in some religious circles by the yin and yang symbol. Their former humanity explains their tender love and care for us flawed human beings. We need some advocates, don't we, on the other side? So they desire for us to reach our highest potential, and they yearn to help us do that. Find our talents or calling, then lift us to use our voice and create, then embody those talents or express those truths to the world, to the betterment of the world. The Zohar, the holy book of the mystical branch of Judaism called Kabbalah, describes Metatron as the king of angels, and they say he rules over the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The Zohar also says the prophet Enoch turned into the archangel Metatron in heaven, which we covered, but I found that as a recurring theme in the Torah and the Bible, that prophet Enoch lived an extraordinarily long life, then was taken up to heaven without experiencing death. All of Enoch's days were 365 years. Enoch walked with God and was no more because God had taken him. And that's from Genesis 5:23 to 24. So many say that as a reward for his faith, Enoch was made an angel. The same is true for Elijah. But the quote from the Bible about Enoch says, and Enoch walked with God and was no more, which infers that he did not die, but was exalted in another form, which many interpret as being transformed into an angel. Though the name Metatron has this distinctive science fiction flavor or almost a transformer vibe, the archangel is said to stand closest to the source of all creation. He's part of this tiny and select group that are allowed to look upon the countenance of God directly. He's been called the scribe of heaven because of his association with the book of life, or what others call the Akashic records. He's also known to act as the patron saint of children because he was the angel that directed the Hebrew people through the desert for 40 years on their journey to reach the promised land. Sandalphon has that a love for children as well. So let's look at how both of these archangels are depicted, how some people see them when they meditate on them, that type of thing. So for some, Metatron is dressed in blinding white robes, as if crafted from pure crystal. And some visualize him standing, while others see him seated on a brilliant throne. And most often, he's not depicted holding anything because he is thought to be the embodiment of pure spiritual energy, which is beyond the system of symbols somehow. It's so pure. But however you picture him, Metatron protects us from above, like over our heads. He shields and shelters us from any threat from above. Now, Sandalphon is often described, even by Moses himself, as the tall angel, and it's explained that his head reaches to heaven. In fact, Sandalphon is said to be the angel that carries our prayers to God for us. So his height reaches down to earth where we dwell and stretches up through the metaphorical clouds of heaven. He's often depicted in turquoise or aqua blue, while others, including me, I see him in black and white with a slight tan or gray to him, like grayish tan robes. In many religious groups, he's seen carrying a musical instrument because he inspires songs to be written, and some even go so far as to say he conveys our prayers to God through the form of music or poems. And many say Sandalphon's associated energy color is red. Turning back to Metatron, other physical descriptions of him are that he appears as a mighty celestial being who's surrounded by bright light. He has multiple sets of beautiful golden wings, and he's dressed in bright blue robes with faded magenta layering on the top. That's so specific, right? That's not how I see him, but I respect that. Some have described him as the archangel being dressed in dark green and bright pink, so like the accounts really vary. Metatron's face, according to a littlesparkofjoy.com, is a sight to behold. He appears full of life, happy, and eternally youthful. He could easily be compared to an older brother, like one you'd look to for guidance, and his ultimate goal is worth repeating. It's to assist you in converting all of your negative thoughts into positive ones. I wanted to interject in here about Sandalphon. So Julie Jancis, who is an author and a podcaster in her own right, she really connects with Archangel Sandalphon, and she reminds us in a passage from her book, Angels and Awakening, that the smallest piece of all matter to her is God energy. Scientists say that the atom is 99.9% space, and she reminds us that the 99.9% that's left is God energy, the energy of your soul. And she reminds us that on Earth, we have, us humans have a kind of amnesia about who we truly are. And we're socialized to feel the vibrations of Earth, which are really tethered in fear, anxiety, stress, and sadness, things like that. But awakening is that remembrance of who we are as souls on the other side. We're love, joy, peace, bliss, ease, and grace. And we are trying to remember how to live from our soul selves. I love that message. So she reminds us, and this is in the spirit of Sandalphon completely, that God did not send us here to live a miserable life of pain and suffering. In fact, from every moment of your life, you've had direct access to that God energy, and you always will. And she feels like it, Archangel Sandalphon helps us to not only go in pursuit of, but to understand that when we wake up, so when we're remembering who we are, that it's at the right pace for our bodies and our minds, not the pace our ego wants, which is to know everything all at once, but at the right pace for us, which I thought was really powerful and very incredible. So turning back to Metatron for a moment, he's depicted usually guarding the tree of life. And there are other depictions where Archangel Metatron stands with the book of wisdom or the Akasha records resting at his feet. And when he appears this way, it's believed that he has achieved a supreme level of understanding, or maybe we have, I don't know. So like I mentioned prior, Sandalphon's energy color is predominantly red, while Metatron's are green and some say pink stripes or blue. When I meditate, I see Metatron as sitting within a burst of this bright, buttery yellow ray. So I found this Hebrew mystic and scholar, Gershom Scholem, and he said about the prophet Enoch that his flesh was turned to flame, his veins to fire, his eyelashes to flashes of lightning, his eyeballs to flaming torches. He whom God placed on a throne next to the throne of glory received after this heavenly transformation the name Metatron. So in this way, Archangel Metatron is one of the most powerful archangels in this new age because he directly represents our capacity for ascension and our ability to access spiritual power. And you can understand why people think of them as a yin and yang and a twin brother, or what some people actually call the original twin flame, because everything about Sandalphon is about us hearing and remembering who we have always been, our soul seed, if you want to call it that, and lifting us up and out of this muck and mire of the earthly to, make strides toward that. I always love indications because, if you look for angel numbers, if you're looking for different angel indications in the clouds or things like that, I found from another source some common indications that Metatron is nearby. So if Metatron is nearby, you might experience bright flashes of light or swirls of a colorful aura that are seen. And that's because his aura is a combination of violet spiritual energy and earthly red energy. He may also display rays of white, green, or deep pink. An intense and distinctive smell can be a sign that Archangel Metatron is trying to connect with you. Those fragrances are most often described as being spicy, like pepper or chilies, or sweetly floral, or a strong herbal smell. An elevation in thoughts, such as the urge to replace negative thoughts with positive ones, are also a sign that Archangel Metatron is near. And on the other side, Sandalphon often is attributed with those thoughts we have that beckon us to pray, put others on our heart, and send that desire up to God. So tingling in the crown chakra is commonly experienced during its opening, and you may receive support from Metatron in this respect as he helps you to activate your crown chakra, the stellar gateway, or a soul star, which I've never even heard of till right now. Also, repeated geometric patterns that you start to notice can be a sign that Metatron is trying to work with you. Archangel Metatron strongly linked to the number 11. So whenever you notice 111 or 1111 on your clock or phone, it's a clear sign that you're being supported by Metatron. You can also see this number in other places, including license plates on cars and buses, digital clocks or clothing such as on sports jerseys. Sandalphon is linked to the numbers 0 and 9. So 0 represents the earth, the circle of life. And it also, if you think of the shape of the earth, right? And it embodies his connection to nature and the earth in that way, as our ascent to the beyond after we pass away. The number 9 represents the end of a cycle. So if I'm going to have a numerologist on coming up, and they'll probably go into the explanation of the numbers 0 through 9. But the number 9 typically represents the end of a cycle, or the end of a journey or a spiritual pursuit, like a conclusion. And it also indicates the beginning of a new one. So 9 represents transition or change and reflects how Archangel Sandalphon keeps us moving forward in our life path. And the other thing I want to say about these angel messages is if you're looking for them, they will come. And if you acknowledge them, I do a simple, I saw 222 all the time yesterday, like repeatedly, and then into this morning. And that's how I knew I probably needed to add Sandalphon to this episode, because I kept seeing 222. But the more you see them and say, hi, angels, or whatever you want to say as an exclamation, the more they're going to show up. But also, after you've asked Metatron or Sandalphon for help with any area in your life, you just have to trust that the way forward will be shown to you. You'll have intuitive nudges, synchronicities, sudden impulses that are a sign you're being guided. Sometimes I've had people fall into my life, whether it be my something simple like an Instagram stream or whatever, and I'm like, that's exactly what I needed to hear right now. And also, I want to say that you may find your guidance comes in the form of dreams, if you're open to it. So for my part, I call upon both Metatron and Sandalphon at the beginning of every meditation session. Metatron is the one that burns off all this sticky, stale, dark energy that I feel in my aura. He's like my Purell, my spiritual Purell. And he also protects me while I'm in that meditative and more vulnerable state of mind. Sandalphon, I feel more wrapped around my feet and drawing me into the center of the earth and just kind of grounding me and keeping me aligned and centered as I'm in that meditation state. I've come to love both of them deeply. And Metatron is the angel of the great central sun. And just saying his name and Sandalphon, both of those names warm me like a sip of whiskey on an empty stomach. To others, Metatron is known as the angel of life. And according to learnreligions.com, he guards the tree of life and writes down the good deeds people do on earth, as well as what happens in heaven in the book of life. So as we spoke of, Metatron lived as the prophet Enoch and Sandalphon was the prophet Elijah. Though my research also unearthed lots of spiritual healers that report that Sandalphon to them has a distinctive feminine energy. But anyway, I guess we've spoken of it earlier, but the angels don't necessarily have a gender per se. They embody all. But if you have a penchant, if you feel one way or the other, I apologize for using the pronouns he, him for them, because I see them as distinctively male in my mindset. Most angels, actually, even Gabriel comes to me as male, but that's just my preference. I guess that fatherly love feeling. So Metatron and Sandalphon are able to assist us. They're just waiting to be asked. That's the huge reminder to me as well as to you. First, in order to enlist the help of any angels, we have to ask because our free will is sacrosanct. It is so imperative to them that they respect our free will. That is why we came down in this meat suit. We have this soul, but the meat suit is the vessel, and they have to and they want to respect our free will, our ability to choose. So they won't impinge upon those freedoms. The second message that I'm kind of called to pass on to you was interesting because author Julie Jancis spoke of this in her section of her book about Sandalphon, is that our choice to use our own free will, maybe we're given a path and we feel a fork and the fork says, choose this way or that way. And maybe one fork takes us more on our, it's a truer, tighter path to our soul journey. But we choose the other way because we have free will. There is always a thread. There's always a path back to that soul journey, or if you want to say it this way, a more godly journey. There's always a path back to those choices. It's just our free will is always the most important thing. So people enlist Metatron's help to discover their personal spiritual power and to learn how to use that to bring glory to God, make the world a better place, and maybe to unlock our soul journey. When there are dramatic changes in your energetic life that need to be made, this archangel that you can count on is Metatron. He will make those energetic changes for you. As you advance on the spiritual path that you choose, Metatron helps you by raising your vibrational energy, as does Sandalphon, so that you may rise to the challenges you're sure to encounter along your path. Archangel Metatron helps you to achieve balance, and I would argue so does Sandalphon. They're these very balanced archangels, and they can help you by guiding you in a proper direction, kind of giving you nudges when you've come to a crossroads in any area of your life where a decision needs to be made. And again, it's upon you to make that choice. And they're not like shaking their head in shame if we pick a way that is different than what they might have chosen for us. We need to let go of that thought of judgment, right? It's just baggage. Metatron can intercede on our behalf by using the unlimited power of his Metatron cube. Have you ever heard of this? Look it up. Google what a Metatron cube looks like. It's a grouping of triangles, circles, and lines that it kind of looks powerful, actually, at first glance. One of Archangel Metatron's greatest powers is knowing how to influence a person to change their negative thoughts into positive ones. And I mentioned that earlier, but it's really worth doing it. That is that integral piece of transforming and transmuting fear into love. Well, that's exactly what Metatron is doing when he's taking negative thoughts and turning them into positive ones. He's good at this because he was once human and he's had that human experience and he draws upon it, and he's aware that those negative thoughts lead to more negative thoughts and even bad decisions possibly. Archangel Metatron helps the dead as well as the living. He is the angel of forgiveness, which is pretty beautiful. He's charged with welcoming those who have died possibly prematurely after birth, and he also welcomes dead children's souls before they incarnate. Then he teaches them about their next life. I just couldn't let this drop because the Metatron's cube, it was a curiosity to me. It was something I wasn't aware of until preparing this episode. That's this large cube. It's said to be a symbol of the love that Metatron has for us. and it provides support for our evolution as well as offers spiritual protection to us. The cube is said to rotate quickly within Metatron's hands, almost at an unseen speed. I always think of hummingbird wings in that way. In sacred geometry, Metatron's cube is the shape that represents all the shapes in God's creation and Metatron's work directing the flow of creative energy in orderly ways. It was interesting because I was reading about something and they were saying that the masculine and feminine energies the feminine energy is like a river. It's the water flowing, and the masculine energy is like the banks of the river that contain that body of water and help to give it structure and give it direction. So Metatron and Sandalphon feel like exactly that, right? They're working on making sure we have a flow of creative energy, but that also it has the structure, and the Metatron's cube allows that structure to make productive pursuit toward that maybe soul journey goal that we have. So any person that's looking for spiritual wisdom and esoteric knowledge need only call upon Archangel Metatron or Sandalphon at any time. And when you need to contact them, it's extremely easy. All you have to do is let them know that you need their help. I mean, I will probably publish a meditation where we can contact them if you desire a more structured way, a 15-minute way to plug in, to give them permission to intercede in your life or offer guidance and maybe clear and cleanse your chakras. But you don't have to be that formal. You can just literally speak out loud. I give you permission to give me guidance and be an influence in my soul pursuit. And you can be as specific as you want. That's the beautiful thing about working with these angels. They just need our permission to work with us. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. Huge gratitude to my art director and audio engineer. And if you need those services, please find their links in the show notes. Also, I wanted to let you know or invite you to share your stories with Curious Cat. And I'll soon have a way that you can leave a voicemail that I'll be able to interject into current shows, episodes. Or if you have a story to tell, you can either DM it to me on any of my socials where Curious Cat is, on Insta, TikTok, Twitter, or Facebook. Or if you want to, you can even record an audio message for me and send that file to me there. Just let me know when you're telling the story. If you want to be anonymous, if you don't mind your name being out there, and if you'd like it to be said in your voice if you've left me an audio recording, or if you'd like me to summarize it and use my own voice to tell your story. I really would like to have you be part of the show. You're the reason I'm here. Until next time, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA. Or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.